Just like the seven deadly sins, the JP2 Healing Center people talk about seven deadly wounds, abandonment. So it's either not getting some form of love you should have had, so being ignored growing up, having parents have to leave, being child of divorce, or rejection, something happens negative to you, or it can be some kind of physical trauma, it can be sexual trauma, it can be emotional abuse, it can be physical abuse, it can be having been in some kind of an accident, it can be being bullied growing up, being told you're not good enough, not meeting up. There are so many different things, and we fill up all those wounds with bad habits. The problem is the bad habit I filled my wound with was success. And that's one of the only addictions people say, yeah, keep at it, keep going. Whereas if it's drugs or gambling or pornography, they'll say, whoa, stop. The other wounds, abandonment, rejection, fear, shame, confusion, hopelessness, powerlessness, all those things can work against us.
You just said something very interesting that I want to unpack a little bit more of success being an addiction that society would fuel and even celebrate. And so having done a little research into your life now and discovering again a high degree of success, but then very recently a high degree of, I don't want to say rejection of that success, but stepping away from things that may have once kind of fueled that pride or fueled that need to be great. So can you dive a little bit more into some of the decisions you've recently made and why you've made them in terms of that kind of more obvious external success?
So God gave me a word of the year for 2023, and the word of the year was rest. As my spiritual director and a friend who's a psychiatrist said, unless you rest, you're not going to heal. So resting would involve giving up things that took my time. So I gave up being on the national board of the CMA. I had reorganized the young members of the CMA, the students and the interns and residents and fellows, gave that up. I'd also been doing for 6 years a podcast and radio show that's won a number of awards called Dr. Doctor. I gave that up because God asked me to give it up. God asked me to be willing to give up my practice, and I got to that point, but he gave that one back. The other two, he gave me complete peace to give up and to just revel in knowing that he loves me, in spending time with my family, and in giving myself to my work, where I've stopped working 5 days a week. I now work 4 days a week. So in other words, I had to strip away these things that were false sources of identity to just find my identity as man, husband, father, and beloved son of God. So I am waiting for him to show me other things that he wants me to do. That is really, really hard. I know he's going to show me because I'm getting to the point where I've rested so much that I think I'm ready to do something, but I want it to be him. So I'm waiting. And if I don't have something, I just go about my daily life the way that I'm supposed to. Like my spiritual director said, I'm living my life now the way that most people do, not the way that hyper successful people do. A great line from a man who Catholic man who recognizes that people that are usually successful usually are trying to do it to fill a wound. And that's Arthur C. Brooks. And in his book, Strength to Strength, he said it's a kind of superpower to let other people know your weaknesses and not care that they know about them. And I have found that to be so true this year.
How do you balance in kind of this new identity, or maybe an identity you've always had, but you've recently discovered? How do you balance, and you're starting to speak to this in terms of coming maybe out of a season of rest, but balancing the desire to do great things, to accomplish awesome things for God and for the world, and to utilize and maximize your gifts? How do you balance that with kind of the humility and faithfulness of just trusting the Lord's plan, even if it seems small and hidden and insignificant?
Well, my life has been so imbalanced for so long in that realm that this year I'm being very careful. I'm trusting a number of good counselors I have who are experienced in prayer ministry, spiritual director, the priest I see for deliverance prayer, and my wife. And unless it's clear that it's from the Lord, I am just saying no. I am waiting. In other words, I used to give talks on the virtue of magnanimity, doing great things for God. But right now, it's like it's the Mother Teresa thing, which in the St. Teresa of Lisieux thing, it's, be faithful, not successful. So I'm trying to be faithful in what I've been clearly given and just waiting for a clear sign, not trying to jump the gun, trying to test the spirit. So right now, if I'm going to err, I'm going to err on the side of not doing enough and say, Lord, you want me to do it? You make it really clear. So I think that's what he wants. It's part of this year of rest. A book that's been really helpful this year is called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And that's all part of it, waiting for God, spending a day of rest each week, Sabbath for God. And just waiting because he's in control. It's his deal. He has to show me.
As you continue on in this process and maybe discover new wounds or have wounds that have begun to be healed more completely, what gives you hope as you continue on in this process? And maybe could you tie that to what should we as viewers be hopeful about in our lives and in our world? So clearly you're on this path of healing because the Lord is calling you and you have great hope for its completion. How are we to understand that?
I have the great hope now because I have an experience of unconditional love I can always go back to. That was the most real thing I've ever experienced in my life. So the fact that I know how much he loves me and that God only works in gentleness, that I can now see the voices or know the voices that are lies, that are not him, that might claim to be him. So I know he wants my healing. He wants your healing more than you or I ever could want it. And he will take us there if we let him. And he wants it to be complete in heaven. I mean, Pope Benedict XVI said that essentially Christianity is a religion of healing. That's what salvation is. Its healing is from the wounds of sin so we can be who God made us to be. And so, yes, sometimes in healing, it's a season that's a painful season. It can be desolation. July and August for me were almost all desolation. I felt no warm and fuzzies, but I saw the memory. I knew God loved me, not just up here, but in my heart. And so every time I'd go by a crucifix, I'd say, Jesus, I love you. I don't feel it right now, but I love you and I trust you. So knowing that he wants my healing more than I do, I just can wait for his time because he's brought me great things in his time when I didn't expect them. But whenever I've tried to do it, nothing happens.
Well, Dr. McGovern, I want to thank you for sharing so honestly and personally about what the Lord has done in your heart and in your life. Incredibly inspiring testimony of what God wants to do in us and what he can do in us when we say yes to him. So thank you for your witness. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your love of the Lord. And thank you for being on G2G.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure, Pete. God bless you.
And that's my challenge to all of you today who are watching G2G. Give your heart to the Lord and say, Jesus, what do you want to heal? What needs to be restored? And see what he does. I'm Pete Barak. This is Shalom World's original program, G2G, and we hope you can join us next time.